Welcome to another video for this channel. I know my hair is getting really long. Also, I know that I've already talked about these bus lines. These are my express bus lines. I would suggest watching that first if you haven't, because I go over my reasoning behind this a little bit more. But I didn't really talk about the routes much. I showed a table that I made that kind of explained the routes a little bit and the roads that they go on. But I figured that I should probably show you the routes. So I spent 3 days on Microsoft Paint making these maps that I'm going to show you. I had to make a lot, and they took longer than expected. Here you go. We're going to start going through the routes now. The first route goes between St. John's and Portland, and so it goes through the Lombard Street area and serves the North Lombard Transit Center, as you can see with the black dot saying Lombard Transit Center, where you can transfer to Max and a few other bus lines. Now you'll notice on my map that I'm turning the buses around at 3rd and 4th Avenues instead of 5th and 6th Avenues, which I talked about in that first video about these express lines. I would have these turn around at 3rd and 4th because it's a separate thing. The express lines will drop you off in a slightly different, literally just a block or two away from where you'd normally get on or off the bus. It's not really that big of a deal. 3rd and 4th gets that separation. Back in Seattle, I know I talk about Seattle a lot, they have several streets. I mean, 3rd Avenue is the main street of transit, but there's also some on 2nd and 4th and actually a whole bunch of streets. But my point is, it's not all dedicated to one street, which is a two-way, or Portland, where it's a set of one-ways. This uses 3rd and 4th. Can I explain that any longer? Alright, next line, 302, Gateway, Portland. So yeah, this goes between Gateway and downtown Portland. Now I know you could just take the Max from Gateway to Portland, but a lot of people take the Max. And if you didn't want to do that, then when transit agencies introduce redundancy, where there are 10 different ways to make the same trip, that gives people 10 more options to take that trip. So having redundancy, in my opinion, is a really good thing. And so that's why I'm having these, some of these might seem, well, I could just take that on the Max. Well, sure, you go right ahead and ride a crowded Max. That sort of environment is not for everybody. Now this bus serves Rose Quarter, and as you see, it's kind of weird. The buses that serve Rose Quarter, it's kind of hard to draw the Rose Quarter layout. It's rather confusing, but yeah, it serves it and then goes into downtown Portland, ending at Clay Street. 303, Clackamas, Portland. So here's another thing that you could do on the Max, but instead is a bus line. And this one is very direct, from Clackamas to Portland. It doesn't have all those intermediate stops. I mean, the Green Line doesn't stop too frequently, but this bus would stop even less frequently. Well, maybe at traffic lights, but yeah. This bus would run on Powell Boulevard and crosses the Ross Island Bridge into downtown. The two bridges that you cross the most frequently on my express routes in the 300s are the Steel and Ross Island. 304, Milwaukee, Portland. So this travels between Milwaukee and downtown Portland. Shocker, right? It does so via McLaughlin Boulevard. And there's a very strange, kind of weird detour up by the Ross Island Bridge where you have to go down Woodward Street and 8th and then Powell, because there's really no easy way to get onto the Ross Island Bridge from McLaughlin in that direction. But in the other direction, there's just a ramp that comes right off the end of the Ross Island Bridge, goes right onto McLaughlin, so you don't have to worry about that. But anyway, it goes between Milwaukee and Portland City Center, ending and going over the Ross Island Bridge into downtown that way. 305, Oregon City, Portland. So this travels between Oregon City and Portland. Again, shocker, right? This bus does not serve the Milwaukee City Center. It'll go right by it on McLaughlin Boulevard, but it will not serve it. So that's why there isn't just a 305 Oregon City Portland. That's why there's a separate bus that does Milwaukee Portland, even though both buses travel via McLaughlin to get to and from Portland and where they're going. Like I was mentioning, redundancy in systems is a good thing. My opinion, of course. Lake Oswego Portland. Well, this travels between the Lake Oswego Transit Center and downtown Portland via State Street, the Highway 43, all the names that it changes to in the middle there. But it's pretty direct. It just goes from Lake Oswego to Portland. I should also mention that these bus lines, these particular ones, and I mention it on there, I typed out a note on each one of these saying how they travel toward Portland in the morning and away in the evening. That's what these are. These are meant for the commuters traveling during the rush hour. Some of them. Not all express bus lines are like that. 307 Park Rose Portland. Again, you could just take the Max Red Line through these sections, but this is direct. Goes from the Park Rose Summer Transit Center to downtown Portland. And you can see the map of how it does that. Does so via the freeways. 308 Gresham Portland. So this travels between Gresham and Portland. The Max takes a while. Sure, the Max goes fast, but there are a lot of stops between Gresham and downtown, so this bus would speed that up a lot. 309 Tigard Portland. So this is more or less the exact same as how the Line 94 already does it, except for the route in downtown is different. But 309 goes from Tigard to Portland via Barber Boulevard. So, and then from here, the Line 94 every day would only go from Sherwood to Tigard. So basically the old Line 93 before it was merged with the 94 back in the fall. 310 Tualatin Portland. And this is pretty much like the Line 96, but only from the Tualatin Park and Ride on into downtown with a different route through downtown. So it would probably be wise to also keep the 96. But this bus line would travel from Tualatin Park and Ride via I-5 all the way into downtown, but would, instead of going on Jefferson and Columbia streets and end there, it would just go Clay and Market Street and then up 3rd and 4th. All the buses would travel on 3rd and 4th. So 3rd and 4th Avenue would be very busy during the rush hours. 311 Sunset Portland. You're going to have to ignore the mistake I made on all of these when you come from the west side. I drew Clay and Market Street the wrong way around because I was used to drawing the lines overlapping on the turn when they take a right. So you're going to have to ignore the fact that I really screwed that up. But anyway, it travels between Sunset Transit Center and Portland. Yeah, it's just basically your Sunset Highway bus. And this travels into downtown completely differently than the 58. This takes the middle lane through the Vista Ridge Tunnel so that it becomes Market Street in downtown Portland and leaves via Clay Street to enter Highway 26 from Portland going back the other way. 312 Beaverton Portland. Now, again, with the redundancy of service, this bus does not serve Sunset Transit Center. It will go right by it, but it does not serve it directly. And again, I made that mistake of Clay and Market. I flipped them, but I'm not going back and fixing it. I only realized it way after the fact. But anyway, it travels from Beaverton Transit Center to Portland. I know it's very similar to the Line 58, but if you look, it's not. It travels via Highway 219 to get onto the Sunset Highway instead of Canyon Road. And there's also, as a result, way less stops. But yeah, same general idea, and also it goes up 3rd and 4th Avenue. 313 Hillsboro Portland. This starts at the Hillsboro Central Transit Center in downtown Hillsboro, travels up 10th Avenue, which becomes Cornell Road. It's basically the same as what the Line 48 does. Then goes down Brookwood Avenue, and then onto the Sunset Highway, and then it's just smooth sailing, hopefully, although there's probably going to be a lot of slow traffic, on the Sunset Highway into downtown Portland, and does the same thing. 314, Troutdale Portland. So this starts near the Troutdale Reynolds Industrial Park. There's a big Amazon building up there where the 80 or the 81, I always get them mixed up, whichever one actually ends at the Troutdale Reynolds Industrial Park. It takes that route but goes on to I-84 and takes the freeway system all the way into downtown Portland, ending where the other ones did. Now, 321, we start the 320s on, which are ones that they're not really commuter bus lines that end in downtown in the morning and go away in the evening. They don't really do that. They just go from city to city instead, and many of which never enter Portland city limits at all. Like this one, 321, Milwaukee, Oregon City. This just takes you from Milwaukee City Center to Oregon City Transit Center. Yes, you can do that on the Line 33, but this is much faster, much more direct, less stops. It's just a quicker way of getting between the two destinations. 322, Milwaukee Rose Quarter. Now this bus might seem kind of interesting, but this does serve a legitimate point. If I wanted to go from Milwaukee to Rose Quarter, or in that general area, and stay on the east side, the only way to kinda do that is to take the Line 70 up 17th Avenue, which the Orange Line also goes on 17th Avenue, and it stays in that general area, but it ends up in the Lloyd District, which may not be what I want, or whatever. The point I'm trying to make here is the Max Orange Line crosses over Tillicum to the west side, goes through downtown Portland, and then crosses over the Steel Bridge to get back to the east side and Rose Quarter. This bus does not do that. Any sort of max shutdown or during certain protest events where a lot of transit service was suspended, they would have some sort of shuttle going between Rose Quarter and kind of the OMSI area, so you could transfer to any sort of Orange Line trains down there. That's kind of the general idea. If there's a bridge lift and you still want to take, the trains that you want, it's highly disruptive, and it might be easier to take this bus from Rose Quarter to the Milwaukee area, or Milwaukee to Rose Quarter, and board Max or whatever. It would serve multiple purposes. 323, Washington Square Sunset. Now, if you've ever been on the electric buses on Line 62, or just been on the 62 in general, but I thought I'd throw in the electrics in case you want to try them out. I've recorded them several times. You'll know that it does. It goes from Sunset to Washington Square, but it takes forever. It takes an hour to get to Sunset. It takes a half hour just to get to the Milliken Way Max station. It's because this bus was designed to serve things. It wasn't designed to get you there quickly. This 323 is designed to get you there quickly, and it would travel via Highway 217 all the way to Washington Square. And again, highway exits are kind of weird, so strange detours around Washington Square, but it would end there. That would be very convenient if I happen to find myself at Sunset and I'm like, I want to go get something to eat at the mall, or go to the mall and go see some stuff. I'll go to Washington Square. There you go, take the 323. In fact, I've got a few Washington Square buses. 324, Washington Square, Hillsboro. For us Hillsboroans, we have no easy way of getting to Washington Square other than take the Max to Beaverton Transit Center and take the 76 or 78 there. But that takes 45 minutes, at least, and there's no highways involved. This would go via the Sunset Highway and then via Highway 217. Would not serve Sunset Transit Center. It goes right by it. And then just goes straight to Washington Square, following the same routing through Hillsboro and how 10th Avenue becomes Cornell Road and, the similar things like that. 325, Washington Square, Tualatin. Now, yes, the 76 can already do that. It can go from Tualatin to Washington Square Transit Center, but again, it takes a while. It's going on Greenberg Road, Hall Boulevard, stuff like that, and it just takes a while. This bus would be kind of like the 96, but not really. It would begin at the Tualatin Park and Ride and go on I-5, and then there's a very easy, simple exit system to get onto Highway 217, and from there you can easily get to Washington Square. And it would take a fraction of the amount of time as it would if you were, say, going to take the 76 instead. 326, Park Rose Clackamas. So this basically just takes a straight shot down I-205, goes from Park Rose Summer all the way to the Clackamas Town Center. Designed for speed and designed as a very direct north-south connector between two decently major transit centers. 327, Park Rose St. John's. So this comes down Killingsworth all the way in through St. John. It's a pretty much straightforward route. But it ends up on Lombard and serves the Lombard Transit Center, where again the Max Yellow Line serves, and goes all the way to St. John's. 328, Gresham Clackamas. So this is, you know, the only way to do this now is to take the Max all the way down to Gateway Transit Center, then take the Green Line all the way down to Clackamas. It'd be nice if there was something a bit more direct, which this is. But as you'll notice, this bus actually serves both Division Street and Powell Boulevard. The bus goes on both streets to provide connections with the FX service bus line. That will be opening this September. 329, Gresham Lombard. So this is for long distance going from the east side all the way off to the Lombard Transit Center, and it would end at North Lombard Transit Center. Why not continue to St. John's? Well, because there are already bus lines taking you to St. John's, and also that would be a really long route. 330, Portland Estacada. So currently the line 30, well, before January 2022, there used to be the 30E, which would continue from it would go from Estacada to Clackamas, but the 30E had one morning trip that would continue into Portland City Center Express, and then in the evening there was also one trip that would go from Portland back to Clackamas and Estacada. The rest of the line 30 trips are just Clackamas to Estacada. Well, this is the 330, Portland Estacada. Again, it runs toward Portland in the morning and toward Estacada in the evening, following the exact same route as the previous 30E. But there would be more trips that would, again, they'd run toward Portland in the morning, toward Estacada in the evening. So there you go. That's how I would bring back the 30E, and I'd call it the 330. Because the letter E meant express, but it's a bit confusing because not only was it express, it was an extension of line 30. But the old 14E that ran on Hawthorne Boulevard, or plenty of the others, I think there used to be a 9E as well, and others. The route didn't change at all. It wasn't extended or changed or anything. It just skipped a large stretch of the line. But the 30 was the only one that was an extension piece of that line that was also express. So it's a bit confusing that way. So I would say if you're going to bring back express routes, do that, but put the letter E on the end, or maybe X. But the 30, I think you should treat a bit differently. And then I didn't draw the 379 Clackamas, Oregon City, because it's just the exact same thing as the line 79. So 79 would be removed. There would no longer be a 79, and it would be called the 379, Clackamas, Oregon City. And literally the only difference is the line number. You're just adding a 3 in the front. So it becomes the 379. That's it. So make of that what you will. If you want to do these routes on Street View, or if you want to drive them yourself, then go do that. Of course, stay out of transit centers. Don't drive in bus-only areas. You probably already know that. So the one and only announcement I have is this will be the only video this week. But starting next week and the week after, it's blooper time. There will be 3 bloopers videos. Parts 3, 4, and 5. I've already uploaded 2 previous ones over a year ago, I think, or maybe about a year ago. So, yeah, I meant to edit the rest of those, and I've now done it, and they will go up soon. So the next videos you'll see on here are bloopers and outtakes. So enjoy the bloopers next week, and I'll see you after that for another normal video.